During the height of the Cold War, the United States Embassy in Moscow was treated less like a diplomatic office and more like a fortress. American security officers swept the walls for hidden microphones, posted Marine guards outside secure vault rooms, and protected their mathematical cipher machines behind heavy steel doors. U.S. security teams weren't ignoring technical surveillance. They regularly swept the embassy with spectrum analyzers and nonlinear junction detectors. As long as those sweeps came back clean and the cipher machines were running, Washington assumed its diplomatic correspondence was safe. But in their focus on protecting mathematical codes, intelligence agencies overlooked a simple detail. Before a top-secret cable can be encrypted into unbreakable code, a human being has to sit down at a desk and type it out in plain, readable English. For this diplomatic traffic, Soviet intelligence didn't need to break the mathematical cipher at all. They were listening directly to the keyboards. Text typed on compromised typewriters inside the American embassy in Moscow was being captured letter by letter, long before it ever reached a scrambler. The device that made this possible wasn't a futuristic supercomputer. It was an iconic piece of American office hardware, the IBM Selectric typewriter. To understand how the Soviets pulled this off, you have to look at why the IBM Selectric was so special in the first place. Introduced in the 1960s, the Selectric was a mechanical marvel. Older typewriters used a basket of individual metal type bars that flew forward one by one to strike the ribbon. If you typed too fast, the arms collided and jammed together in a tangle. The Selectric eliminated type bars entirely. Instead, it used a single golf ball-sized element covered in raised letters, numbers, and symbols. When a typist pressed a key, the metallic ball spun, tilted to the exact angle of the desired character, struck the ink ribbon against the paper, and snapped back to center. Underneath the keyboard lay a complex web of metal arms called bales, which pulled mechanical latches called interposers. Pressing the letter A pushed a specific combination of interposers. Pressing the letter Z pushed a completely different set. Those physical movements dictated the exact tilt and rotation of the print ball. To office workers, the Selectric was fast, smooth, and practically unjammable. To Soviet intelligence engineers, those mechanical interposers were something else entirely, a physical code waiting to be read. Sometime in the mid-1970s, KGB hardware specialists engineered a bugging device so sophisticated that American inspectors didn't even realize they were looking at it. Instead of attaching a clumsy external microphone or tap a power cord, Soviet technicians manufactured an exact replica of a structural beam, the aluminum comb support bar that ran horizontally inside the Selectric's chassis. The original IBM support bar was a solid piece of aluminum. The Soviet replica was hollowed out. Inside that tiny hollow channel, Soviet engineers packed miniature magnetic sensors, integrated circuits, single-bit core memory, and a radio transmitter. To make the system work, Soviet technicians replaced 6 internal latch interposers with non-magnetic parts carrying tiny permanent magnets on their ends. The bug didn't listen to sound, and it didn't look at the paper. Instead, sensors inside the support bar measured magnetic movements as those modified interposers moved overhead. Each printable character produced a particular 6-bit pattern of mechanical movement. The hidden circuit recorded those patterns and stored them in internal memory. The bug didn't capture spaces, shift key states, or backspaces, but it recorded enough character data for linguists to reconstruct readable passages and substantial portions of documents. The typist couldn't feel any difference in the keystrokes, and the support bar looked like standard IBM factory aluminum. Storing the character data was only half the challenge. The KGB still needed to retrieve it without getting caught. To do this, Soviet engineers equipped the bug with a radio transmitter that operated on remote control. Listening posts stationed in buildings near the embassy could send an activation signal to wake the bug up. Once activated, the bug buffered its stored character data and transmitted it in brief, high-speed radio bursts lasting only fractions of a second. These burst transmissions were tuned to frequencies that helped them blend into local radio noise, making them harder to distinguish from local Moscow television signals. Some versions of the bug drew power directly from the typewriter's electrical switch, while other versions used internal battery packs, allowing them to operate without depending entirely on mains power. For American security teams performing routine sweeps, the Selectric bugs were virtually invisible. U.S. spectrum analyzers were generally designed to find older, continuous transmission bugs and they missed the brief burst signals. Physical inspections failed because the electronics were completely sealed inside a solid-looking aluminum beam. From roughly 1976 until 1984, the KGB quietly captured text typed on compromised Selectrics inside the embassy, refining the design of the bug through 5 distinct generations. The United States might have remained blind to the breach indefinitely if not for a discovery made by a foreign ally. Earlier in 1983, a friendly intelligence service, widely identified in historical literature as the French, found a mysterious electronic implant inside one of their teleprinter machines in Moscow. The French quietly shared the finding, and the National Security Agency received the warning that August. When the NSA examined the report, the implications were clear. If Soviet intelligence was capable of building electromechanical implants for teleprinters, sensitive office equipment inside the American embassy in Moscow had to be treated as compromised. In February 1984, President Ronald Reagan officially authorized a top-secret counterintelligence operation codenamed Project Gunman. The objective of Project Gunman was ambitious. The NSA planned to secretly remove, replace, and inspect communications and office equipment across United States facilities in Moscow, followed by additional inspections at the consulate in Leningrad. Sensitive office hardware had to be brought home for forensic teardown. Executing Project Gunman required tight operational security. If the Soviets suspected that Washington was onto them, they could remove, disable, or modify the implants before the equipment could be recovered. NSA telecommunications personnel arrived in Moscow under routine cover, while most embassy employees remained unaware of the operation's true purpose. Teams slowly staged replacement gear in the embassy attic. Over 10 days in the spring of 1984, crews worked around the clock, hauling 10 tons of new equipment into the offices and removing 11 tons of old equipment. The old equipment was packed into wooden crates, loaded onto military transports, and flown directly to NSA headquarters at Fort Meade, Maryland. Among that initial shipment were 44 IBM Selectric typewriters recovered from the Moscow embassy. When the crates arrived at Fort Meade, NSA analysts immediately began tearing the equipment apart. For weeks, technicians disassembled typewriters, measured electrical resistance, and swept for radio emissions. For weeks, the inspections produced no decisive evidence, increasing the pressure on the team. The machines appeared completely standard. Then came the evening of July 23, 1984. An NSA technician named Michael Arneson was scrutinizing an IBM Selectric when he noticed an unusual component inside the power switch. Instead of relying on a visual teardown, Arneson decided to take the machine to the lab and X-ray it from top to bottom. When the X-ray plate developed, the mystery dissolved. Inside the hollowed-out support bar sat a dense, neat row of integrated circuits and magnetic sensors. Now that they knew exactly what to look for, NSA investigators systematically scanned the rest of the machines. Out of the 44 Selectrics in that initial batch, 6 contained Soviet bugs. Further inspections across the fleet eventually uncovered a total of 16 compromised Selectrics, 13 from the embassy in Moscow, and 3 from the consulate in Leningrad. The discovery of the Selectric bug sent ripples through the American intelligence community. It demonstrated an advanced hardware tampering capability and raised alarming questions about the security of the equipment supply chain. The NSA realized that protecting communications wasn't just about building unbreakable encryption algorithms for radio transmissions. Project Gunman changed how United States agencies inspected, protected, and trusted office hardware. It highlighted the fact that if an adversary could bug the physical keyboard, the mathematics of the cipher machine wouldn't save you. Movies still portray Cold War spying as a clash of codebreakers deciphering radio signals or secret agents whispering in dark alleys. But the analysts at Fort Meade learned a different lesson. The KGB had proven that defeating an encrypted message didn't require attacking the cipher at all. It was simply a matter of stealing the text from the keyboard, before the code ever existed.